bit of a, I guess, a taboo area. They didn't like it because it's so much different to everything else that we've been in. They thought, it must be, demons must own this place, for want of a better term. So the local people never visited this place. It was found by Lieutenant Bert Kinzel, who was one of the GAU people. So he was one of the instrumental people. He's the guy that set up the whole carrier force, around about 10,000 carriers. He was an Australian expat that was living in New Guinea, and when the war broke out, he joined the Australian New Guinea Administration Unit, all right, and helped set up the carrier force. He flew over, and on the way, when 39 and 53 battalions were both forward, he flew over the battle space looking for an area that they could drop supplies in order to get stuff forward as fast as possible. He identified the area, so he's the one that actually named it. So Myola, and Sean was talking about it the other day, Myola is actually an Aboriginal name. So Bert Kinzel's boss, his boss's wife, her name was Myola. So it's named after his boss's wife. This is Myola 2. There is a smaller one over the back, that's Myola 1. All right? Perfect for a drop zone in many ways, not so perfect in some other ways. So my understanding, it's a dry volcano, extinct volcano. That's why there's a bit of a rim around the outside. But in the middle, if you look down in front of us, that's actually marshland down in there, very, very wet. All right, so what used to happen is the DC-3s, C-47s, depending on what sort of nation you come from. C-47 was the militarized version of a civilian DC-3 airliner made by Douglas. They used to come in low from the east, as low down as they possibly could, fly really, really low in front of us, and they'd drop the supplies down here in front of us, and once the plane was lighter, they'd then try and gain altitude before they hit the mountains to the west of the position. All right, so the dedicated drop zone was in front of us here. They used to have spotters on the hill. As the planes came in, the spotters would try and identify where the bundles landed, and they'd sit on the hill and there'd be search parties down there, and they'd be saying, fucking, need to go that way, back a little bit. I saw a bundle there, and they'd be looking around. It could be buried in the mud.
That sounds like my golf game.
So they were doing their best. They tried to mitigate the fact they didn't have technology like metal detectors or any of that sort of stuff to find it. But these days, I reckon, I'm not aware of anyone that's done it, but I think if you walked through there with a metal detector, you would be going bing, 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 bing. A lot of the shit you probably wouldn't want to pick up because there'd be a lot of ammunition and stuff because that's heavy. When you drop it, if it's wet, it's going to sink. Yep. So when we'll try and do it chronologically. So when the 39th Battalion were forward at Isharaba, the 53rd Battalion were already forward. The 2nd 14th and the 2nd 16th, they're pretty much following in our timeline, the timeline we're on now. All right. So where we are now, there would have been elements of those two battalions camped in around this area. So today is the 21st of August, yeah? So on the 21st of August, 2nd 14th and 2nd 16th, we're in location here, waiting for sufficient supplies to be dropped so they could bomb up again in order to push forward to Isharaba and support the 39th and the 53rd Battalions at Isharaba and Abuari. All right? So they were waiting for more stuff, ammunition, maybe not mortar rounds, but ammunition and rations, new boots, because of the nature of the boots of the time and where they've just walked through, boots were falling apart. So yeah, they stayed here for a period of time and eventually on around about, I think, the 23rd of August, started making their way forward. So the 2nd 14th got in location with the 39th Infantry Battalion on the afternoon of the 26th of August. And for those militiamen that had not seen support elements in any way for about the last 8 weeks, who had been in constant contact for the last 8 weeks, it was like, oh my God, the Messiah's here. Yeah. So they saw the men from the 2nd 14th, who were bronzed Aussie warriors from the, they've been in North Africa, walking into the position, and the guys from the 2nd 14th saw the young blokes from the 39th and named them the Ragged Bloody Heroes. Young blokes, 18 and a half. Right, they're just waiting on Augustine to come back now. I spoke to a few people. All right, I'll go and have a quick chat. We'll work out what's going to happen from here. So those that weren't here earlier, the plane wreck, sorry, see that that green triangle.
Sure.
Everyone see the green triangle?
Yep.
Yep. That's basically marks the easternmost point of where the runway used to be, when there was an airstrip here. Yeah. The airstrip used to run from there towards the west. So from that triangle towards the tree line. So quite a narrow, short strip. Yep. The issue was, it was a narrow, short strip. Very, very limited amount of aircraft could land on a strip that big. And they put the Ford Tri-Motor that was here, spent a lot of time here. That's now in the museum in Port Moresby. It actually landed. They loaded a few casualties on board. It's easy to get casualties out on an airframe rather than make people carry them all the way back from where we've come from. So they landed the Tri-Motor and got some Pri-1 casualties out. The Tri-Motor was coming back. Some rocket science, and there's a lot of rocket scientists in the military, saw where the cones were. They'd placed a few markers on the end of the airstrip to indicate where it was safe to land. Thought, oh, there's a few more meters in there, we'll just move them back. They picked up the markers and moved them back a little bit further. No one actually analysed the ground where the pilots were going to put the wheels on the ground. So when he came in next time with an intent of putting his wheels in line with the markers, because he'd already proven the ground, he'd already taken off from there, and he knew that ground was safe, put the wheels on the ground and flipped the aircraft. And they turned off all aircraft delivery after that. So no more flights out for evacuation. Something as simple as that. And a lot of lives were probably lost. They probably died between here and Owers Corner because they were forced to walk or they were on stretchers for the next 2 weeks. I'll find out whether the bridge is there. Just have a bit of take some photos, have a chat.